Hey patrons, it's Tyler the Antenna Man here with another antenna install story. Pretty interesting one that hasn't happened in a while. I don't know if it's ever happened before. I had a call for a guy who had issues picking up Philadelphia stations only 8 miles from the broadcast tower. He was only getting 2 of what should be 20 stations that are broadcast in the Philadelphia market. So I went to his location. I noticed he was using an old converter box, lost the remote a few years ago. So, as many of you can probably imagine, due to the FCC repack, many of the stations moved frequencies, and he physically was not able to run a rescan with his converter box because he lost the remote. So, I had an extra converter box on hand, and I connected it, ran a rescan, and he got most of the channels. Now, I say most because there were a few channels that did not show up with the rescan. Now, one advantage to the converter box that I recommend, there's an Amatic one, there's also the Mediasonic HomeWorks, is it allows manual input of TV stations based on the RF channel. So I noticed he wasn't getting channel 6 and channel 2 out of Philadelphia, which happened to broadcast on RF channel 2, but stations don't always broadcast on those numbers. I manually inputted the channel and moved the antenna around, and once I was able to get a signal, I hit OK. And then from there, I was able to adjust the antenna to get all the stations with a Zendori antenna. But it shows you two things. It shows you, first of all, that TV signals don't travel well through building material. This guy was 8 miles from the broadcast towers, and he wasn't able to pick up ABC and MeTV with a Clearstream antenna that's actually a pretty decent indoor antenna. The second thing that I always stress to people is to use at least a tuner or some kind of TV tuner to adjust the antenna to get all stations. If it weren't for the converter box with the manual channel input, it would have been the endless rescan cycle where you move the antenna a bit, run a rescan, hope for the best. Oh, now you're missing channel 3. Move the antenna again, run for a rescan, hope for the best. Now you're missing channel 10, but you got 2. Move the antenna around, run a rescan, hope for the best. It's madness, guys, and that's not the way anyone should be setting up an antenna. But I guarantee you that's the way the majority of people are setting up antennas, because they just don't really know. And I've been stressing this, but I don't know how many people understand it. If you're using a TV antenna, it's really good to have a tuner to see where putting the antenna makes a difference. You don't want to just put the antenna in a spot and hope for the best. And also the converter box has a signal meter on it, so I pressed the info button twice and got the highest signal percentage on as many channels as possible. The average TV set, you wouldn't be able to do that. So that's one of the stories I have for an install story. Don't worry, there's plenty more coming if you think this is a boring story. I do have some very interesting stories that I will get to in the coming days and weeks. But just figured to tell you guys about this story while it was fresh on my mind. I appreciate all you guys supporting me on Patreon. If you have any other suggestions that you would like for me to make videos or just general content, maybe my thoughts about this current pandemic and how it's affected me, feel free to let me know in the comments section. But in the meantime, I appreciate your support, and continue following me on Patreon and YouTube.